On this week's episode, we talk about loading the dishwasher, what to do if you have a full-time job and a side passion, and one startup founder who is blowing my mind right now. Hey everybody, and welcome to Finish Friday, the show that helps more creative people change more lives. I'm your host, Todd B from Tennessee, and this week I want to bring you an idea that you might never have thought of before. All right, so in my daily life, I used to be a stickler for washing the dishes every day. Like I would get the dishes in the dishwasher, I'd see them there at the end of the day, and I couldn't leave them there. So I'd pick up a sponge, even if it's midnight or whatever, and do the dishes and make sure they were all done. And the sink was empty before I started the next day. And then I discovered this magical little device that had been in my kitchen the whole time. And it was the dishwasher. And it turns out that whenever you load these things into the dishwasher, it does most of that work for you, huh? Welcome to the 21st century, right? But then I realized that I had some comparisons in between the dishwasher in my kitchen and other parts of my life. See, like early on, maybe 9-10 years ago, I was spending a lot of time on things that didn't deserve my attention. If you say that creativity is the most important thing in your life and you wish that you could do more work, eventually the time that you spend and your schedule is going to have to reflect that. And nobody else is going to walk up and give you some more time. Like we all got the same amount of time in the day. And if you're like me, you got bills, you got chores, you got relationship stuff that you have to handle. You have people that you want to spend time with. But what about all that other stuff? Right? What about the email? What about the stuff that you spend time on whenever you're not engaged in your creative work that you know isn't moving you any closer to that pursuit? What are you doing with that time? Because the fact of the matter is we all have the same amount of time in a day. But the difference between successful creative people, your Casey Neistat's, your Peter McKinnon's, your Gary Vaynerchuk's, and people who are struggling to make that quantity of work is that these people have put stuff in the metaphorical dishwasher. So this week, let's look at your life and figure out what's going on that is keeping you from making your best work, and take all of that stuff that doesn't matter so much and stick it in your personal dishwasher and let it handle itself. Quick shout out to East Tennessee State University. You guys know who this is, all two of you that are watching. And fun fact, this right here, right? One of the first pieces I ever wrote for the ET, the parking garage was coming. It was a huge deal. It's there now, it's nice. Hard-hitting journalism at its best. This week's question of the week comes in from Arulnathan, and Arulnathan asks, how do you keep writing despite the pressures of a full-time job? So the first thing, right, is the beginning of the show. Make sure that you're putting on autopilot the kind of stuff that needs to go on autopilot. But I'm gonna take this in a little bit of a different direction. If you're in a full-time job that is sapping you and draining you of your energy day after day, it's time to take a close look at that job and see if it still belongs in your life. Like, I'm the kind of person who believes in momentum so much that I find it hard to believe that you could excel in one area when you have a big, gaping black hole of doom that is taking up 40 hours of your work week. And so what you may know, Arunathan, and what some of you others may know, that I still have a full-time job that demands my attention very much, but it's a profession that I love and I like to spend time in that, and I get energy from the people around me. So the reason that I can keep writing like it is my full-time job is because that stuff I do from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, fuels me to do that better work. And I wouldn't even call that pressure, to be honest. I would call that motivation, because I know the time I have to write is already condensed, and so I'm gonna make the most of that time. I'm gonna go to my job and I'm gonna do everything I can. I'm gonna do my writing in the morning and I'm gonna give everything I can. I'm gonna come home at night and I'm gonna be with Kate and I'm gonna give that relationship everything I possibly can. I think it's not necessarily about staving off a certain part of your life in order to focus on the other. I think it's more of a matter of lining up things that give you energy so you can go from thing to thing to thing. And it's not every day you're gonna feel 100% great, but at least you can carry some sense of well-being from one thing to the next. And when you can do that, it becomes a lot easier to go from a full-time job to your side time passion. This week's artist spotlight goes on my good friend, Ash Ali. Ash is a friend I met overseas. He and I connected on Twitter a long time ago, and he contacted me about a book. And honestly, like, I thought he was just trolling me, because he was like, you know, a guy I never heard of. He was like, hey, you want to work on a book with me? I'm like, okay, who's this guy? But I got to know Ash really well, and he turns out he has a phenomenal story. This is a man who grew up in Birmingham, England, which is kind of like not necessarily the slums, but not that far from it. He grew up practically with nothing, and he doesn't go to school. Like, he does bad in school. He drops out of college twice. You know, his sisters and his friend get him a card on his birthday that says future internet millionaire, and it's like a joke card, right? Because it was before anything had blown up. It's 99, 2000, nothing's really happening for Ash. And then flash forward to today, he was involved in the biggest IPO in England tech history with Just Eat UK. He was one of the first employees there, and he's making things happen. He's in the artist spotlight because my man makes startups and art. He did Just Eat. He did several companies before that. He's done a Wash Plus app, like a laundry app in Dubai, and I continue to be floored by my man. I will, of course, link him up down below, and make sure to check out what he's all about. He is the real deal, and I think you can hit him up on Twitter and he'll answer any question that you want to know about startup life, about branding yourself online, or just about enjoying what you do every day, which I have to admit, he's one of the best at. That does it for this episode of Finish Friday. Before you go, make sure to answer this week's Ask the Audience, and I want to know, who was the last person you texted? I'm just curious. I'm gonna look at mine real quick. We'll do it live. I texted Ryan, my video guy, which makes sense because he's sitting right back there. Thank you so much for watching. Before you go, make sure to thumbs up this show if you liked it. Once again, I'm Todd B from Tennessee, and I will talk with you next week.